Hello and welcome to Noni, your morning chat show that brings you the topics and opinions that matter to you. Today we'll be talking about celibacy in the 21st century. Who is celibate these days, and is it a realistic or even a positive lifestyle choice? And the rise of the big fat African wedding. They're flash, they're fun, but are they worth the money? And we'll be hearing what you think with your comments on social media. Joining me on today's show, Pastor Lorraine Jones, MBE, ordained minister and campaigner against street violence, and Elizabeth Nwachukwu, a counsellor and motivational speaker who uses her own life experiences to help and inspire others. Now, these days, sex is everywhere, on TV, social media and music videos. But many people, in fact, over a quarter of women over the age of 40 in the UK lead celibate lives, either out of choice or circumstance. But can there be advantages to life without sex? And is it still feasible to save sex with your partner until after marriage in the 21st century? Pastor Lorraine, let me come to you first. We've seen the stats.
Yeah.
So, is it normal? Are more people choosing to live a celibate life than we like to admit?
Well, I wouldn't say choosing, because of circumstances which you pointed out. A lot of people are thrown into becoming celibate. There's a rise in divorces. Some have gone through domestic violence. We have women that have had a history of abuse, which they're having to deal with, and not becoming celibate out of a choice of wanting to dedicate themselves to God, but becoming celibate because they haven't found that partner, and that's the moral thing to do.
Elizabeth, why is celibacy frowned upon? Some people see people that are celibate as weird.
Well, I mean, I think it's actually choice as well, like Pastor Lorraine said, because initially some people feel they don't have to go into it, and they feel that they don't have to have sex. They prefer to stay to themselves, and then maybe until when they feel comfortable, or maybe when they actually get married, then that is when they will start practicing sex. But again, for me, sometimes I feel like, I mean, I understand the fact that you have to wait before you actually do that. But again, when you're married, I don't think you have to put your life on hold. But I'm not saying that you should have it before marriage, because I'm also a Christian, and I believe you have to wait before you actually go into sex, before you start having sex. So you should be in a marriage before you go into that.
But is that's not celibacy, is it? And I think for a lot of our viewers, they may be getting confused. I get confused, because I suppose if you're waiting before you marry to have sex, isn't that chastity? You know, if you're a virgin, you're not celibate, are you? You're waiting for somebody. We're talking about women who were choosing, and men, not to have sex with somebody.
I mean, the challenges we're facing in the 21st century, I mean, you've mentioned about the media, fashion. I mean, it's all pressurizing. And just the decline in the breakdown in the family home and in society, where we're having abuse, domestic violence, so much that is really broken down the family unit. So it's proven that it's really hard, and it's not really on the rise that people are just choosing to be celibate. It's not. But what I said is that I've noticed that a lot of people are being forced to become that way because of external circumstances, and they are dedicating themselves to God. I mean, that's one of the ways in how they're coping with their day-to-day lives. But at the same time, if somebody's gone through an abuse, they've been violated, they've got that physical experience and urge, and that is a reality.
So it's a form of celibacy, isn't it? Elizabeth, you're married, and I know your partner lives away from you. So I'm presuming you're not having sex at the moment. I don't know why we're laughing about this. This is a serious discussion. But I must ask, because, of course, you're living away from him, surely sex isn't an essential part of everyday life, is it?
Yeah, actually.
Come on, keep going. Talk to us.
Yeah, actually, yes, it is. But again, because it's not here with me, but that doesn't mean I should start practicing it with somebody else. But I still have to wait for him till we come together. Because again, for me, I believe the fact, not just because he's far away and I'm deprived of it, but again, the fact that I respect myself, and then.
No, but what I mean is, if we're talking about the numbers of celibacy, and we look at how people who were celibate are treated in the media, you would see it as an abnormal thing. But taking it on a flip side, is sex then, having sex, engaging in sexual activities, is it an essential part of life?
It is an essential part of life. I mean, if we're going back to the Bible, God created Adam and Eve, and then what happened next? They had children, and children come through intimacy. So it's something which, it's a way in which we are naturally like groomed to adapt to, getting into a relationship, raising a family. But then as we go through the scriptures, we then learn about the Enoches. Those that dedicated themselves to God. And I see that as a gift. I mean, I've spoken to a number of women also that have unfortunately had a bad experience, but they have now given themselves to God and they're happy, they're fulfilled. I think we need to understand what is sex, what's the meaning of sex, because there's so much abuse that's gone on and violation that people are then allowing themselves to be abused sexually, and that's not what sex was designed for. It was designed for man and wife to come together and have an intimate relationship, because that's what happens. I mean, I'm not married now, but I was married for many years, and sex is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful gift. That's the original purpose of that. But when you're getting into abuse, violation, and marriage by force, because I speak to a number of women in the Muslim culture and African culture that have had arranged marriages. So then sex becomes a nightmare. So it's knowing what it is, what it's for, and putting it in the right context.
I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, Pastor Lorraine. But, you know, what about people that are going to say, come on, guys, don't take it too seriously. You know, I had a lot of sex in my 20s or my 30s and I just want to break. You know, isn't that a choice as well for some women, that they've just had enough sex, they don't want any more?
Yeah, true. Some people would say they don't want to have any more sex. They don't want to engage into it, because I think before, when I was actually sexually abused when I was 10, 11, and then I don't even, when I hear the word sex, that actually freaks me out. I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want someone to, I don't want to hear hex, talk less of sex. So, I mean, it could be the bad experience of the fact that they've enjoyed, they've seen it, and what's in there, I just want to be by myself. But again, it's created for enjoyment, just like Pastor Lorraine said. Again, you can't just stay out of it, because you get wrinkled, actually, if you don't have sex. Duh, my husband is far away, but that doesn't mean I'm still wrinkled.
Gosh, I think that's a topic for another show. But coming up, we will still continue our chat on celibacy in the 21st century. And what do you think about the phenomenon of the big, fat African wedding? We'll be hearing your stories and experiences. More after the break. Welcome back to Noni. Still to come on today's show, what do you think about the phenomenon of the big fat African wedding? Do you dream of tying the knot in a big fat way, or do you think it's just way too much fuss and pressure? We'll be hearing your comments. But before the break, we were talking about celibacy in the 21st century. Now, Pastor Lorraine, a lot of church leaders in Britain are saying that celibacy should be taught in schools as a positive lifestyle choice. Do you agree?
Most definitely. Absolutely. I mean, the problem that we have in society is it's imbalanced. And if they've now brought out laws where we're educating our children about sexual education, we need to also educate them about celibacy as well, so that there is a balance. I think it is vitally important. I mean, personally, the ages which they're saying, in which they're teaching sexual education, I think it's too young.
What ages?
I'm getting families that have got children as young as 5 and 6 that are performing sexual practices.
Oh my God.
And that's, performing sexual practices. And obviously they've learnt that from somewhere. Sex it's something which, I mean, a child, it's not for children, full stop.
I think we can all agree that.
Full stop. But with the current situations we have in society, with paedophiles that have the desire to have sex with children, I can see where the government's coming from, that they want to safeguard children in sort of bringing an education and awareness, but it's damaging. But we can't stop that. So let us bring in education about celibacy. keeping yourself.
Choosing to say no.
Choosing to say no.
Being able to say that you don't want to do it.
Yes.
Elizabeth, why is selling sex, you know, loving your body, showing off your body, even if it's to sell cereal, why do you think, you know, sex is everywhere and sex sells so much?
Seriously, I mean, sometimes you could see even just, a train ticket could actually have a woman with unders alone, and sometimes it feels so weird.
Before, but
No, even in Europe, because I went to Belgium the last time and I saw just a female holding a ticket, and I'm wondering, why do you have to dress naked? There are many other ways that you could actually, do your promo without having a woman with a pants and bra displayed just because you want to sell a cheap ticket.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense, because it's like everywhere you turn around, and again on newspaper, even on holiday, you will see so much of maybe a paper around a man's manhood just to say that you're free. That is not freedom, because I believe the more you push this into children's view, the more they want to think of having it, the more they want to feel that it's okay to have sex at younger age.
That's really interesting. I think most parents, most grown-ups will agree that, you know, yeah, we're using sex to sell everything and it's wrong. But Pastor Lorraine, why then are we not celebrating celibacy?
We should celebrate celibacy. It's very, very important. And, you know, I've spoken with males and females that are celibate and have been celibate for many, many years. And it's just the quality of life that they're living. I mean, this should be advertised so that more people can know that they have other options. I mean, the media, just like my sister here said, the media is flooding sex because it sells. But we need to get back to humanity. Look at the statistics of abuse and damage.
That's really interesting, Pastor Lorraine. Elizabeth, you said you're a Christian. You belong to a huge church. Putting this on religion, do you think some people are choosing not to have sex for religious reasons, but then that can lead to other damage, like pornography addiction, as you alluded to before, Pastor Lorraine, and masturbation, because they're denying having sex and choosing to be celibate, but because of religion or because of, what they feel the pastor will say?
Now, I think the reason why some people might be doing that is because they don't have the knowledge of the word. Because when you start thinking that what your pastor will say because you do not have sex or because you want to keep yourself, then it's more or less like you're afraid of your pastor, not God. Because for me, I kept myself because I don't want to go into sex, and it's not because my pastor said so, but it's because I believe the word of God says so, that you should keep yourself. And he said the bed of marriage should be undefiled. So that's the main reason why I kept myself. Some people do it basically because they want the pastor to know that, oh, I'm keeping it, I haven't had any sex with anybody. But again, it shouldn't be that, because again, sometimes some pastor forces it to them and it doesn't allow them to understand the real word of God and what it should be. And then they are caged in that atmosphere, thinking that if I don't do this, what will my pastor say? And it shouldn't be so. It should be a thing of your own choice and a thing of understanding that you know truly from your own within heart. And again, it really helps you to understand who you are, because having sex all the time as well makes you lose. And at the same time, you having sex with these, having sex with B, having sex with D. I mean, it doesn't really,
EFG,
and all, and then again, okay, I'm not saying I'm taking Bible out of this, but again, for yourself, it actually gives you some kind of wholeness. It gives you some kind of cleanness as well, and it gives you some kind of knowledge of who you are. Having sex, sleeping, having different breath and different sweat around you, again, makes you feel so dirty. And again, then, taking it together with the word of God, again, it helps you, because spiritually, you understand who you are. When you're lying with different men, you have different spirit on top of you, different baggages on top of you. But again, you need to understand who you are, what you stand for. Not every snake has to be eaten.
Well, I think we're all agree that, staying celibate can actually be a good thing. The big fat African wedding, it's a phenomenon like no other, with couples splashing out £30,000 or more on inviting hundreds or even thousands of their friends to an unforgettable celebration. Hordes of bridesmaids, lavish dresses and feasts fit for kings. The bride is queen for the day. But is the big fat African wedding just too much, landing young couples in serious debt before married life has even started? I had about 400 or 500 people at my wedding, and you know, in some like settings, that's minuscule, you know, compared to some of the weddings that we have been to. Elizabeth, I've seen your social media. You're always at a good wedding. Is it worth it?
I think for me, if you can afford it, then good for you. But again, it's too much, because if you don't have a house to stay, as in if you haven't got any accommodation yet, you haven't even have all the necessary things that is actually needed in your marriage, and you're spending 30,000 or even 40,000 pounds, or I mean, loaning money from bank just because to have a day show, it's actually a madness for me, because I'm against it, because I don't see the reason why you should have a lot of old big wedding that at the end of the day, these people are not going to contribute to your marriage. They're just coming to eat and they're going to leave. And at the end of the day, you're left with nothing. In fact, like Africa wedding, when you're dancing, they spray you money.
Dollars.
But the money is $1 for God's sake. And when you convert this money, it's just 200 pounds. And why are you wasting thousands of money?
That's if you're unlucky.
That's half of a mortgage. That you could have 3 houses. Because, I mean, if you're a new buyer, you have like maybe 10% or 5%. So if you're going to have that, why don't you just buy 3 houses instead of you do a small wedding? Yes, I understand you have to get a good dress. You have to get, because it's a lifetime, it's once in a lifetime.
You were married.
I'm married.
You married in Nigeria, and your wedding was lavish.
Because I make sure it looks like it was lavish. But I control my spending.
Okay.
Because I did not spend my money. I look for the quality of things. I look for just my outfit, my husband, and then the whole. I didn't bother to get the hall that was big. So if you want to come, you can stand outside.
Pastor Lorraine, let me bring you in here. You live in Lambeth in South London.
Yeah.
Lots of Africans live in your area. I'm sure you've been to these weddings.
Yeah.
It's not really worth the money, is it?
And I've been to Nigeria many times as well. And attended the lavish wedding.
Exactly.
But I mean, if you've got the money, a wedding is a very special ceremony. It's something which is once in your lifetime.
Yeah.
If you have the money,
Good.
spend it.
You hope it will be once.
Spend it. We hope. But if you haven't, you have to be mature and realistic.
Yeah.
Because like my sister said here, if you're going to borrow money, take probably a second mortgage for your wedding, and then leave yourself in debt, that is not wise, because then it automatically brings strain and pressure on your marriage, which you don't need.
It's interesting as well, because if you talk about the African wedding, we're not just talking about the white wedding. There's the traditional wedding, which we call the engagement ceremony.
Yeah,
so you literally have 2 weddings, don't you?
Yeah.
And then it's the ashwebi, it's the gilly, it's the new wig.
Yeah.
You know, you're actually even asking the bridal party to spend so much money.
Yeah, and even when you mentioned the ashwebi, that actually drives me nuts, because initially,
I'm sure you always buy ashwebi.
I don't buy ashwebi.
You don't buy ashwebi.
I don't buy ashwebi, because in the end of the day, if I buy your ashwebi, I'm gonna keep it in my cupboard. And at the end of the day, if I wear it to church, someone will say, "Oh yeah, that's Julie's wedding." Or that's Tony's outfit. That was the clothing. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I understand the fact that if you want to have a uniform, but again, when you're charging people £100, £200 just for a piece of yard of clothes, that is madness. Because why don't you just allow people to feel free? Because I feel like you're constraining them from their wardrobe, because I'm going to pay £200 just to buy your material, then I'm going to get £60 or £100 to sew. I mean,
it's a lot of cost, isn't it?
Because you have so much uniform.
You're right, but Pastor Lorraine, you know, it should be a good thing, isn't it? It should be celebrated that young Africans are still engaged in marriage, still want to get married in a time where a lot of people are not getting married in their 20s and their 30s. They're waiting for years, or they're never doing it. But do you think there's too much pressure on having a lavish wedding and not enough emphasis on having a long, healthy marriage?
Most definitely. And because of the way it is highlighted and publicized, these lavish weddings, it automatically puts pressure on the husband-to-be to provide such for the woman that he loves, that's going to be his wife. There's a lot of pressure. And then don't forget the business side of it. It's a business. People are making money.
Yeah, you put wedding in front of photographer.
Yeah. It's a business, and it's taken away the real essence and importance of marriage and why two people are getting married. And I think that that needs to be more emphasized on, so that, you know, two people coming together to be married, they're not under that pressure that they have to have a big lavish wedding to show that, yes, we love each other and we're serious. Because if you look at the divorce rates,
it's high.
It's high.
Even amongst Africans, and we never used to get divorced, did we? We'd suffer in silence, but now, you know, you're getting divorced, and you're getting divorced younger.
Yeah.
It's really serious. But do you think, in a way, Elizabeth, this is just our culture, isn't it? You know, I'm a British Nigerian, and I must say, anything we want to do, you know, if it's a naming ceremony, if it's a birthday, you know, you're going to have extra coolers of jollof rice, you're going to have a DJ, a band. Isn't it just our culture?
Yeah, I think it's good in the sense that, for me, I like that. But if you have the money to celebrate the naming ceremony of a child that you just had, or if you have for maybe any parties, then you just feel like celebrate. If you have the money for it, then go for it. Because again, it's more or less like, it could be a culture thing. But again, it is good in the sense that you're celebrating. It's celebration, isn't it? Something new just added onto your family, and you're celebrating something good. So if you want to celebrate it, go for it.
It's a celebration as long as you can afford it. Well, that's it from me, Juliana Olayinka, and my lovely co-host for the morning, Pastor Lorraine and Elizabeth Nwachukwu. Don't forget, we'd love to hear your thoughts on our social media streams. Join me tomorrow for more Noni Chat. Goodbye.